home, the Gauteng Education Department has told all schools in the province to immediately suspend the sale of food on and around school premises until further notice. The decision was prompted by rising incidents of alleged food poisoning involving pupils in the province. Just this week, 110 pupils from Tamao Primary School in Eguruleni were rushed to hospital after falling ill from suspected contaminated food. Schools and SGBs have been instructed to closely monitor vendors, tuck shops and other outlets that sell food. School governing bodies are an integral part of the basic education structure, and for some, reflections on the decision by the Gauteng Education Department on the sale of food at schools. I'm now joined by the National Association of School Governing Bodies Secretary General, Matakanye Matakanye. Mr. Matakanye, very good afternoon to you. Thanks very much for your time. I don't know what you make of the Provincial Department of Education's decision.
Good afternoon, Boya, and good afternoon to all your viewers. We want to send our deepest condolences to all the families affected, and the families that are next to the occasion, to the what occurred, and to the schools, to the governing body, to the teachers, principals, to the communities. We are saying to all South Africans, we are in the war. And when you are in the war, at times then you impose a state of emergency. And that means some laws are no more going to be considered. So it is the same, I believe, with the Department of Education in Gauteng to have a circular that says stop all these things. And you'll understand why I use this words like war, is that the question of circular is an internal communication between the employer and the employee. It is not law to the school governing bodies. Therefore, we are not going to challenge it now, but we are accepting that really we are in the war. Then what is important now is to get answers. Who is this enemy that we are fighting? Who is this enemy that is fighting our children? Who is this enemy that is fighting South Africa? Because these children that are dying, these children who are poisoned, are the future of this country. These are the leaders of tomorrow. But when you target them, it means you are trying to extinguish South Africa as a whole. So we are saying in that understanding that the suspension of our own vendors in schools, it must be temporary, and the department, together with the sister department, agriculture, trade and industry, COCTA, as well as health. We have realized that health is trying. I think the Minister of Health has already started giving us some signals, and we are really surprised why other departments are quiet. They have not issued any statement. They have not said anything. But having said that, we are saying we give them that time so that if we to suspend our vendors, then it must be in a short time, then knowing the answer, so that because they must not be implicated as well to say, no, the poison comes from the vendors in the schools and around the schools and all those things. So we are saying we are agreeing with them to suspend that now, but with conditions that now, that must be temporary. Quickly, we must get the answers.
A couple of things, just from what you said, even though I had other questions. You're saying you're given where our education is at least trying to deal with the matter, and you asked where the other departments were, some of which you had mentioned. But then you say we're giving them that time. If we are in a war, do we have the time?
We really don't have the time. We really don't have the time. Really don't have the. There's nothing that I can say except that we also have to impose the state of emergency on all those departments. But we are. What time that I'm talking to Vuyo is a suspension of the vendors in schools. We are saying, well, it must be temporary. But in terms of the war that we are facing, no, there's no time. If they can give us answers tomorrow, then we'll be grateful.
Then the suspension, though, which you're arguing should be temporary, in the meantime, you are being asked as SGBs, but also as schools more broadly, but also the vendors themselves, and this is the way it got a bit confusing for me. You are now in charge of this process. You are the ones who will have to ensure that, like all these things, that the Education Department, that school food, only food of nutritional value is sold within or near school premises. No expired or repackaged food items are sold to learners. Any individual selling food to learners complies with regulations, blah, blah. But do you have the capacity? Do schools and school governing bodies actually have the capacity and the wherewithal to actually perform these functions that have been specified by the Department of Education?
We don't, Vuyo. We don't. They are just shooting in the dark. We don't. We always said there is a local government. A local government has inspectors. Local government has laws which are called the bylaws. We don't have capacity. They have got capacity. They must not just shoot in the dark. They must send those people to ensure that they monitor everything. That's why we are saying local government is sleeping on the job. And hence we mentioned COCTA. To say COCTA, then where is the local government to ensure that now they implement this so-called bylaws? And the bylaws are not controlled by us. As much as now they are shifting the blame to say, no, school government must make sure that around the school and all that. We don't have those powers to go around the schools and chase people. They have. You know that next to this supermarkets, next to these malls that are owned by people who have got money, you'll see traffic cops there taking all those at the gate of those. Taking all this. Why are they not doing this next to schools? That's the question that we're asking. Is due to the fact that we don't maybe have money. If we had money, then they'll be doing the same as they are doing to the malls, they are doing to these big shops.
Shouldn't you be calling for the bluff then and then say, look, we don't believe this is going to be effective, as much as we welcome it, implement it by all means, but can we look at things that are going to make a real difference and get everybody who has a stake in this, everybody who is empowered but also mandated by the Constitution and the laws of our country to sit around the table as a matter of urgency, and they say, let's deal with this comprehensively, urgently, but also make sure that whatever we prescribe is going to be effective. In other words, not people ticking boxes and saying, you know, we must be seen to be doing something. Shouldn't you be doing that rather, instead of waiting for them or giving them time?
Hence, we are calling on the government. And I've stated, Vuyo, all the State Department that must sit together. And if maybe they call us upon, I mean, there is intelligence in this country. There is a Department of Agriculture, of Agriculture in this country. There's the Department of Trade and Industry in this country. There's the Department of Health. There's COCTA in this country. Why are they not sitting together and say, let's address this? Because, I mean, our children are dying every day. And all those, we don't know who is the enemy. And the departments, as I mentioned, they're quiet. I mean, you can't really being elected into those positions when we are, and we are not prepared to take law into our hands. We have got a government in this country then government must make sure that it protects us. It protects our children. It protects this country. Because if you don't protect these children, you don't have a future in this country. So we don't know who is really trying to finish the country. And whilst we have the government and we have got the State Department, and those State Department must come together as early as yesterday and sit down and say, this problem must end today. Because at the end, it's going to be chaotic in the country. People will because this thing affects us differently. It affects us differently. It affects us as a community, affects us as individuals, affects us as parents, affects us as schools and all those things. But if there's nobody who comes and say, okay, now this thing must stop, I know what is going on, and this is how I'm going to stop it. Then once they take law into their hands, they must not come and blame anybody.